Welcome to Girl Party, the podcast that tackles cinema's most legendary team-ups. Films where two or more major stars shared the screen and battled it out for screen time, top billing, the fatter paycheck, and the most acclaim. Every week, we'll be discussing movies that gave audiences two for the price of one on legends of the silver screen, and we'll be delving into dueling star personas, a bit of behind-the-scenes drama, and the ultimate quest for box office, Oscars, and cinematic dominance. And don't worry, we'll be discussing actors of all genders from week to week, because boys are invited to the girl party, and gender is a construct anyway.
Welcome to Girl Party.
Welcome to Girl Party.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lucien, and Shane and I are here today to discuss two ladies in a movie, two famous actresses allowed to headline a big summer film. Mm-hmm. When does that ever happen?
Never.
Not very frequently.
It's the first time ever.
First time ever.
First time ever.
And folks, it is a girl party today, so welcome along.
It's a good one.
We mean to be inclusive, and we mean to be equal representation. And on Boy Party, a podcast that on the surface looks like it probably would be incredibly one-sided. So welcome along. We don't have a female guest here today to discuss this movie with us, but you know, at the end of the day, as much as it's a movie with two women, it's a bit of a boy movie. A lot of cop stuff and guns and silly fart humor in this film.
That's not just for boys.
That's not just for boys. Oh, that's incredibly. Yeah, I know. That's incredibly close-minded of me to say that. Today's movie is The Heat, 2013.
Not Michael Mann's Heat.
Not Michael Mann's Heat. So, funnily, because kind of Michael Mann's Heat is sort of the ultimate. It's not okay. We can say this about everything, but
sure.
Michael Mann's Heat is kind of one of the 3 or 4 definitive boy party movies of just like, whoa, those two guys, well, they're equally big stars. Mm-hmm. So it is funny that we're doing The Heat before we do Heat. In fact, when I walked into the room and said we should do The Heat next, you did say Heat or The Heat.
Yes.
This film being called The Heat feels like such a The Watch, The Hustle, like last minute title change. They probably had something better. Like,
well, there's a very obvious reason why you need the definite article there.
There is a reason why you need the definite article. I wonder, could this movie be called like Boston Heat? Girl.
Does that
Heat.
sound more like a TV show then?
Boston Heat. Yeah, it does sound like a TV show, but and anything can sound like a TV show.
Hot Shots.
Hot Shots is a movie.
I know.
I don't know. I feel like The Heat is just like shockingly forgettable. But maybe it's not. Maybe
no, because people know what The Heat is when you tell about it.
I guess they do, right?
Yeah.
Like if you walk around and say like, oh yeah, we're doing The Heat this week. Like I feel like most people are going to know what we're talking about.
I think so.
People who have a memory of more than a fucking goldfish length anyway. I think The Watch is a really tough one where it's like that film just does not exist.
No.
And for those who are wondering, this is the 2012 Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, Jonah Hill movie.
And I think
it doesn't
the two
exist.
stars of this have a very good ability to just be in the consciousness of the general public.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the public's awareness of like all of the movies that Melissa McCarthy made between 2012 and 2019 is probably much higher than it should be given the average quality of those films. Like, I feel like the average person would remember Identity Thief and they'd remember Tammy more than they would say remember even the Adam Sandler films from those years, or you know, similar.
I was more angling at the other star of this film.
Well, of course. So Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy are both in this movie. Sandra Bullock, I think you're right. Yes, is very much like your coworker's favorite movie star. Like very much her.
And again in Ireland as well, we've noticed a trend of female-led films doing
female-led
particularly well
comedies.
Yes,
female-led comedies and female-oriented comedies do completely over-index in Ireland. Big examples of this being Bridesmaids, of course, which is sort of the precursor to this film. Yeah. And Bridget Jones and the Sex and the City movies.
Barbie
and
did well.
Barbie, the highest grossing film of all time in Ireland.
Yeah, crazy.
And then over the past few weekends, Anyone But You and Mean Girls, both sort of similar.
Mm-hmm.
Mean Girls a little bit different, actually, because Mean Girls is aimed a little bit younger. This tends to be for films that are aimed at kind of women between sort of 25 and 45. I think Mean Girls is aimed more at like 15 to 25. But I'm sorry, I'm going to have to check the Heat's like Irish box office, but I would definitely imagine that the average, like the per capita number of Irish people our age and a bit older who have seen The Heat is probably like, again.
I'd imagine this got a big Bridesmaids boost.
Yeah, I'd say so. Well, here as well, but like it did everywhere.
Oh, here especially.
It only exists because of Bridesmaids.
Sure.
But there is certainly a sense in Ireland that women between sort of 25 and 45 are very easily convinced to go to the cinema in groups when a film is brought out that appeals to their interests.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of interesting to me that the Irish film industry hasn't really capitalized on this yet and started like pumping out like comedies about women. I guess there's been a few, but the number should really be increasing faster given that the audience is like 100% there, like in a pretty undeniable way.
Like if you bang out a female-led comedy for like 200 grand here and just market it a bit and like
Deadly Cuts is the last one I can think of, and I think Deadly Cuts did do pretty well. Like there should be a film like Deadly Cuts every 6 months that's like either, you know, just like 3 or 4 well-liked Irish actresses, and throw some men in there as well, obviously, because like that shit's just gonna sell loads of tickets. Anyway, enough about the Irish element. The Heat came out in 2013, and it is Paul Feig's follow-up to to the fucking Bridesmaids. Sorry, Ghostbusters and Bridesmaids, 2 jobs that are very easy to mix up. So Bridesmaids is one of the most successful comedies of the last 25 years, pretty much. That film makes $306 million, which is kind of like bordering on sort of Hangover Ted numbers. Might have made more than Ted, to be honest. And that's literally like, that is a movie where the biggest, like the stars of that film are all TV actresses. They are SNL people. You're not looking at, that's not a film with a major comedy star in it at the time. Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph and Rose Byrne and Melissa McCarthy are all people from TV, but that movie is obviously like a phenomenon that summer. It is instantly considered to be like the best sort of female Hollywood comedy of the last couple of years. I certainly think it's pretty fantastic. Like, I don't think it's overrated really at all, which is kind of unusual.
Something I haven't watched in years.
I watched it again like
really.
2 or 3 years ago, and it's really great. It's long. It's got that like Apatow problem where it's inexplicably over 2 hours long, but it kind of earns the length because there's just a bunch of fun stuff where she like is involved with Chris O'Dowd and she's involved with John Hamm, and there's just like 8 of the funniest women in America. This is
pushing 2 as well.
This is pushing 2. I think this is this just bordering on 2. Certainly we found it to be. This is 117 minutes and Bridesmaids is 124. So, okay.
But I think this does lack, like, not to immediately jump to this, but this does lack the men.
Interesting.
It doesn't have kind of a, like, John Hamm and maybe not Chris O'Dowd, but like we have a relationship with Chris O'Dowd just because we're familiar with him. But like,
you're saying this film needs to have better male co-stars.
But just like if Jason Bateman was in this, like, of course, in our last episode, Central Intelligence, you'd be way more hyped.
But maybe it's more of a flaw of the script, because the film shouldn't need that. If you have Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy, you literally shouldn't need any men.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I think it might just be a script
Bridesmaids,
flaw.
I don't think Chris O'Dowd and John Hamm add anything to Bridesmaids, really. I know I just gave them as an example of adding to it, but I was kind of lying when I said that. I don't think that, like, those are 2 actors I don't really care for. So I think that Bridesmaids completely would work if you literally had not a single man appear on screen. And this film suffers from having kind of too much man bullshit. A lot of action scenes and cop scenes and firing of guns and mob stuff and gangster stuff and people being tied to chairs in warehouses. The man stuff in this movie is when it's boring, and all the fucking comedy, pure, unfiltered Melissa McCarthy, Sandra Bullock stuff is when it's like absolutely great. So I almost think that maybe the script should have been sort of stripped of its action elements more so.
Yeah, I think we made this point. We were watching the first episode of Mr. and Mrs. Smith yesterday. And there's you can very clearly tell that the relationship is the focus of the show and not the action. And it doesn't give way to try and force plot into it.
Yeah. They literally, that show seems to be committed to dedicating at most like 12 or 13 minutes an episode to like the mission at hand. Yeah. And very quickly the mission can get twisted into a
kind of
character piece. Like, just like there's like a character piece where it's about people in a room playing games with each other rather than firing guns.
A lot of it's 2 people figuring out how they interact with each other.
Like, and I feel like The Heat is doing that, and it's good at doing that, but The Heat probably has a little bit too much of that Universal Pictures summer
studio
movie
exec saying, put an explosion in this.
We need explosions in this. And I don't think Paul Feig has necessarily been left to his own devices here. Now, interesting thing is that Paul Feig and Melissa McCarthy's 2 follow-ups to this are also extremely action heavy. Spy and Ghostbusters. Spy is, in my opinion, taking this idea in completely the wrong direction. That film has so much stupid action in it.
Yeah.
Like, it is literally, for a large proportion of its running time, a Jason Statham film.
Yes, and that kind of tells you all you need
But
to
it's a bad Jason Statham film. Yeah. It also makes the pretty chronic mistake. Like, its biggest problem is that the female sidekick in it is Miranda Hart, who is like one of the most unfunny people alive, and is apologies to Miranda fans listening. Like, that is equivalent to putting Jack Whitehall in Jungle Cruise, where you're instantly losing my
Sure,
interest.
but I now that you say it, I think a Miranda Hart movie would make money in Ireland.
Oh, of course it would.
Yeah,
oh, absolutely. Miranda Hart.
yeah.
Oh my God. I absolutely would. Interesting to me that maybe Miranda Hart and Spy is the closest template we have for what Phoebe Waller-Bridge's vibe would have been in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. But anyway, I think, and then Ghostbusters is a lot better than Spy. But that has Kristen Wiig back in the equation, which is very important. It also has Kate McKinnon and Leslie Jones, funnier than usual. And then Chris Hemsworth is fantastic in that film. He's really, really funny. Mm-hmm. So that film has like 3 or 4 elements and also it has like Ghostbusters shit. There's lots of action that is inventive and fantastical, and there's goo coming out of things, and there's clouds in the sky of weird ghosts, and like that film is able to lean into the fantasy to have slightly more interesting action than just gangster stuff. Yeah.
Genre tropes or whatever.
Which this and Spy suffer from, but this is much better than Spy. So Melissa McCarthy and Sandra Bullock are only stars of equal status, kind of from the day this movie comes out onwards for a couple of years, I would argue. Like, Melissa McCarthy, 3 years prior to this, was not a household name. She's obviously in Gilmore Girls, which I've never watched. I take it from everyone I know that she's very good in it. And then she's in Mike and Molly, which ran for inexplicably long after she became a movie star. Like, I've rarely seen that happen, bar maybe Jason Segel on How I Met Your Mother, where somebody is like starring in a big movie once a year, twice a year, and is still appearing on a fucking TV show that's like barely watched by anybody. Mike and Molly kept going till 2016. And like her peak of movie stardom is 2012 to 2015, 2016. Very bizarre. The male star of that show, I could give you a million billion years, you'd never be able to tell me who plays Mike on Mike and Molly. His name is William Gardell Jr. Like, what the fuck? What's Melissa McCarthy doing on that until 2016?
What network was that on?
That was on CBS. That show has a laugh track. It ran for 127 episodes.
Was she self-financing her films and just like needed a paycheck?
No, I think it was just like,
she just likes it.
It was like an insurance policy on the film thing not working out.
Yes,
maybe.
yeah.
That show was made by Chuck Lorre, who is the, of course, mastermind behind such wonderful TV as 2.5 Men and The Big Bang Theory. Yeah. So obviously, like, the money was there.
Sure.
The premise of that show is that they meet at a Chicago Overeaters Anonymous group. Mm-hmm. It's literally just like the premise of the show is like, what if 2 fat people were a couple? Okay. That's so depressing. Mike and Molly, everybody.
But do you think she got a serious bargaining chip for the contract once she started?
I would imagine so, like,
yes. Her episode per episode salary just skyrocketed.
Sure, but I don't think that Mike and Molly's ratings really went up that much. Maybe they did. Yeah. I mean, I'd say CBS sitcom tends to do well, whatever it is. But I don't recall there being some sudden, like, Mike and Molly's the 3rd biggest show on TV, which is weird considering she had multiple films coming out that were making, like, you know,
a couple hundred million.
Just occurring to me here that Jenny McCarthy is her cousin. That's really bizarre. That's so weird. So that means that Melissa McCarthy and Jim Carrey were like related through marriage at one point.
Who's Jenny McCarthy?
Jenny McCarthy is the Masked Singer judge radio show host, Jim Carrey's ex-wife. Yeah, that's insane.
She's her cousin. Wow. Yeah. Wonder if they talk.
I'm sure they do. Anyway, she's a TV actress, and then Bridesmaids comes out in 2011. And I didn't see Bridesmaids for another year or two because I was, 13, 14. But, like, I remember just basically everyone everywhere. It's one of those things when I was a child and a young teenager where suddenly everybody in the media was just like, this person's amazing. It was like, you know, Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight and Melissa McCarthy in Bridesmaids. It was like, this is an unbelievably funny performance. And it is.
Justified.
It is. It's correct. It's fantastic. So Melissa McCarthy gets a somewhat kind of inexplicable, well-deserved Oscar nomination for Bridesmaids for a fully purely comedic performance. And this is something that just doesn't happen. No one gets Oscar nominated for a performance that is all comedy. It has happened this year with Mr. Gosling in Barbie, and that is like only, one of several times I can picture this happening in the last couple of decades. Melissa McCarthy's competition that year at the Oscars was Octavia Spencer in The Help, who won, which I was very happy with at the time. I think she's very good in that. Bernice Bejo in The Artist, which is a farcical nomination. I literally haven't seen her in anything since. Chastain in The Help, which is a weird nomination. I don't think Chastain's particularly great in The Help. I think Bryce Dallas Howard is the best of the sort of white actresses in that film. It's weird she didn't get in. And then Janet McTeer and Albert Nobbs, which is an absolutely absurd nomination as well. And then Melissa McCarthy. So it wasn't particularly competitive, but fair play to her nonetheless. So Sandra Bullock wins her Oscar 2 years prior to that for starring in The Blind Side, which is pretty abhorrent film, I think. It's kind of the platonic ideal white savior bullshit.
And obviously stories in the last year have come out that
a lot of
the subject has just received no money.
Yes.
He sued the family for...
Now I think that, that's more...
I'm not sure how true all that is, but
I don't know. That film is just like does not need to be watched by anybody again, which is a pity because Sandra Bullock is a great actress, I think, and it's a pity her Oscar is for something so farcical. And she gets close again in 13. So the year The Help comes out, she's also in Gravity, which is sort of her best performance by default. I think she's really good in it, although that film has not exactly held up quite as strong in my estimations as I originally had it. But I was looking, it's funny, in 2013 I had my top 10 movies of the year literally had 2 Sandra Bullock vehicles in it, which is very impressive for somebody who had entered a kind of a second or third phase in her career at that point.
This made your top 10 at the time?
This made my top 10 at the time. I've gone in now and looked at my current 2013 ranking where this ranks number 20. Okay. It's right in there between The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Prisoners, which is, I think, where it belongs. But some of the shit I've got above it, like Hangover 3 and Don John, Nebraska, Stand Up Guys, Gravity. Maybe it should be moving up a few spots. I don't know. But Sandra Bullock, anyways, probably the fucking 4th most famous actress in the world, I'd say. And Melissa McCarthy and her really did kind of feel like they were of equal status when this film came out. I feel like Melissa McCarthy was so hot coming off of Bridesmaids, and just enough time had passed that people were really kind of desperate for more of her. Now, Identity Thief beats this film to a release about 6 months before, maybe even less, 4 months before, which is unfortunate because Identity Thief is really, really bad. And I think that when Identity Thief came out, people were like, oh, she's just going to make shite now. And then maybe didn't give The Heat as much of a chance they should have, which is unfortunate because it's an excellent performance. But then immediately after The Heat, she does go back to making absolute garbage and make several of just absolutely useless comedies in the preceding few years. Stuff like Tammy and the Boss. And I'm not a fan of Spy, as I said, although people do like it. Life of the Party. You got exceptions in there. Ghostbusters and St. Vincent and Can You Ever Forgive Me gets her second Oscar nomination. She's very good in that. She's in The Happy Time Murders. Oh, God.
That's truly
great.
Excellent film.
And then she does this last 1-2 punch of just garbage that goes straight to streaming, Super Intelligence and Thunder Force. And I think that's when people are just like, enough. She then makes a really depressing film called The Starling, where she plays a woman who just lies on a couch all day being sad. And then she is Ursula in The Little Mermaid. And then in December, she was in a straight-to-Peacock movie called Genie. And now she is the second lead of Jerry Seinfeld's Pop-Tart movie. And I think we can safely say that Melissa McCarthy's era as a movie star has come to an end. A bit tragic. But maybe
seems somewhat by choice.
I think... just very poor judgment.
I think so.
And a very strong desire to keep working with her husband as a director, Ben Falcone, and as a producer herself, and not really letting anyone else write a comedy for her.
Do you think she falls into the Rock and semi-Sandler thing of being too kind of...
It's the Sandler thing. The only difference is that Sandler is surrounded by people who can write funny comedies, and she is not. She obviously doesn't seem to be able to write her own stuff particularly well. She needs Paul Feig, and her husband is terrible, useless filmmaker.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's nice that she wants to work with him and make all these movies, but like they're not good enough to keep doing it. Whereas,
do you think she gets a lot of good scripts from her agent that she turns down?
I would guess so. Like, Can You Ever Forgive Me is such a good role for her. Like,
Yeah.
it's a real person. It's like a perfect role for like an actress in their late 40s who people have a certain it is like the ultimate like Adam Sandler goes serious type role for her, where she's playing this kind of like closeted gay woman in her late 40s, and she's obviously like unstereotypical by Hollywood standards, but she's got this kind of wonderful poetry to her. Like, there could be so many roles for Melissa McCarthy like that. Like, she is the most successful actress of the last 20 years who isn't, perfect blonde and skinny, right? Like, that opens up hundreds of possibilities of interesting films she could make, because she can be a character actress playing complex, interesting, real, not Hollywood perfect women who is also going to sell tickets and be a huge draw. And that's so special and unusual. And I
think if she had a large budget marketed film here, people would perk up. I think her name is still floating around there as something,
I'm sure,
that would draw attention.
Yeah, she also went back to TV and was in this show 9 Perfect Strangers, where she is second banana to Nicole Kidman.
Okay.
Which is like, I don't think she should be positioning herself next to Nicole Kidman. Like, I feel like her and Sandra Bullock can banter. That's a great pairing because Sandra Bullock is funny. Nicole Kidman is many things, and I like her a great deal. She is not funny, and that show is not funny. That is a show about like a culty beauty retreat. It's a silly kind of White Lotus but without the jokes kind of thing. Is she going to end up on the White Lotus? Maybe she is. I don't know. Or is she going to end up doing some sort of fucking
McCarthy or Kidman?
McCarthy. Is she going to end up doing some sort of HBO half-hour thing?
Would she not pull herself into a True Detective or something?
Right? That's what she should be doing.
Yeah.
She should be doing True Detective-y parts. She should be doing like Jodie Foster roles.
Like, I have an image in my head that she's in Fargo or something.
No, she's not.
She's not. But I can imagine her being a Midwestern cop in the snow.
I want her doing the Jodie Foster, Carrie Coon parts. Which is to say, I think she can do a bit some sort of androgyny, some sort of less effeminate roles. Like, there's so much potential there for her. She is a really good actress. And I'm in favor of people, and I don't want it to sound like I have a double standard where I want Adam Sandler can do all his stupid comedies and Melissa McCarthy can't. It's just that his stupid comedies are good and hers aren't. Like, if her shit comedies were all as good as The Heat, which isn't a shit comedy, it's a good comedy, but I would have no problem with her never making a serious film. That's fine. It's just she ain't doing that. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there.
Hey, maybe she doesn't. Does she make films as frequently as Sandler was pumping them out?
No, not at all. No, she's every two to 3 years.
Yeah, like when you're batting them out one a year, like Sandler, you can kind of take the duds.
Yeah, I know.
You're going to hit something eventually.
Yeah. Now, the other thing she's done in the last couple of years that I really liked was when she played Sean Spicer on SNL. That was really fun.
Yeah.
And she was just chewing an enormous amount of gum. That was a rare, funny SNL impression.
Yeah.
Like, so
Has she a history of stand-up or sketch comedy or anything, or was she just a TV actress?
No, I don't think so. I think she's just a TV actress. I'm not aware of her having much. No, she seems to have just started popping up in TV shows in the 90s.
She has Cork ancestry.
Yeah. Now, the funny thing about it, like, the easiest comparison to her, I guess, is someone like John Candy or whatever. I feel like a lot of that, like, if you compare her to a comedian who's kind of is known, let's say, for their physical size, and they're kind of known for being this kind of irritating, buffoonish character. You compare to people like John Candy and Belushi or whatever. Like, a lot of those guys just die in their 40s. Like, so they never have to figure out what they want to do in their 50s and 60s. Melissa McCarthy is sort of blessed with having a longer career than many of her male counterparts of similar types have had. And I wonder what she will do with that, if whatever she's given the chance to, I suppose. But so Melissa McCarthy's films as a leading lady have grossed a total of $2.6 billion worldwide, but worth noting that 500 million of that is from The Little Mermaid and 360 million of that is from The Hangover 3. And I would argue that neither of those films, especially not The Hangover 3, were sold on Melissa McCarthy's name.
I completely forgot Melissa McCarthy was in The Hangover 3.
She's like, is she even in the trailer, or is it just more of like a cameo? I don't know. She's definitely in it more than she's in Central Intelligence, but I don't know. Can't quite recall.
She's in Central Intelligence.
Yeah,
at the very end.
We literally talked about that. Talked about the heat on that episode.
I know. That's. Oh god.
If you discount The Little Mermaid and The Hangover 3, her
that was an insane
box
role
office
for her.
is going down. Well, it's a that was a cameo. That was like Melissa McCarthy. Haha. 1.8 billion then is about her real gross. Sandra Bullock's films as a leading lady have grossed 6 billion worldwide. What the fuck? That must include Minions. Okay, that includes $1.5 billion for Minions. Okay. Gravity's 680 million. Jeez. The Proposal, $300 million for The Proposal.
Fair going.
$300 million for The Blind Side. $300 million for Ocean's 8. $300 million for Speed. $238 for Bullet Train, which she's barely in. $230 for The Heat. And $213 for Miss Congeniality, $200 for 2 Weeks Notice. She is an unbelievably big star.
Oh yeah,
those are unbelievable numbers for comedies and a fucking football sentimental drama to make $300 million.
Probably has limited
that is
reach
insane.
outside the States as well.
Sure, exactly. 250 of that was made in the States. 50 was made outside the States. Crazy, actually.
Lower.
And the Heat though, not that far off. 160 US, 70 international.
Okay.
But anyway, so The Heat, any other things to say about it? It is about, what is it about? It is about
a kind of rough local cop in Boston, like kind of who works on the streets, and it's Melissa McCarthy, and she's like a loose cannons, traditional, and then Sandra Bullock
keeps guns in the fridge.
Yeah, and Sandra is kind of the by the book federal agent that comes in, and she's got all her folders nice and neat, and she has to learn the way of the streets, and Melissa McCarthy has to teach her, and they clash heads at the beginning and then learn to appreciate each other's skill sets. And good duo. Much better than the Central Intelligence
Much
duo.
better than Central Intelligence. And it's like funny because there's less obvious contrasts to work with these two. Central Intelligence, you're like, it's a fucking big guy and a small guy. Yeah. It's a guy who talks with a high-pitched voice and a guy with a deep voice. Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy, like, are they the contrasts are less obvious?
Yeah, you're going based on delivery. You're going based on the script.
Yeah, now they're styled very differently in this film. Sure. Sandra Bullock's very uptight and very, very prim, and Melissa McCarthy is very boorish and loud, and she's smoking and drinking, and she dresses in crazy raggy clothes and all this. But the film manages to find a lot of very fun ways to create space between their personalities, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's never demeaning to either of them.
No, it's
which
not,
is
exactly.
why it's
yes,
very nice.
Yes, and it's definitely this film doesn't have fun using Melissa McCarthy as a source of mockery for her physicality, I suppose. No. Which I don't think any of the Paul Feig films do. And to be fair, none of the films that she stars in do, because she produces them all, and I do respect that a lot. And she has managed to sort of shed that as part of her comedic persona, which is great. Because I think her personality is so strong in people's minds as Melissa McCarthy, and the way that she behaves, especially when she's playing someone who's like super erratic and kind of unpredictable, like this character is. But the film's plot is fairly dull, a lot of mobby stuff, but it's just,
I guess they're just trying to find some drug dealer, and that's kind of it.
It's just an excuse for them to hang out.
The villain isn't anyone of note.
No.
Tony Hale shows up.
Tony Hale's in it.
There's a funny scene where he's trying to purchase a prostitute.
Yes.
And Melissa McCarthy just like kind of
completely humiliates him.
Yes.
Calls his wife, tells her. It's great. Demian Bashir's in this. Marlon Wayans doesn't register at all. Michael Rappaport plays the kind of simpleton brother of McCarthy's character.
Bill Burr is there.
Rappaport is good casting as her brother.
Yeah, it's funny.
Taron Killam's in it.
Mr. Studio 60, what's his name again?
Nate Cordry. Any other like fun cameos? Oh, obviously Miss McCarthy's fucking husband shows up as like the one guy who is like, flirting with her, which happens in a lot of these films. John Ross Bowie from Big Bang Theory is in it. He's pretty funny. Zach Woods is in it as a paramedic. Oh, yeah. And Paul Feig shows up as a doctor. This film was written by Kate Dippold, and it is her feature film debut, similar to The Post, which was that for Liz Hannah.
Mm-hmm. Good start.
Yeah, Katie Dippold. She was in Upright Citizens Brigade and wrote loads of sketch and improv stuff. She was on Late Night with Conan O'Brien. She's 44, so she's been around for a while. Mm-hmm. And then she started writing on Parks and Rec in 2009, and she wrote The Heat. So she was working on Parks and Rec and then wrote this film, which is a nice little career pivot. And then she co-wrote Ghostbusters 3 years later with Paul Feig. And this year she wrote Haunted Mansion, the Lakeith Stanfield's Owen Wilson Haunted Mansion, which I thought was quite fun. And to be honest, I think Ghostbusters is fun as well. And it's unfortunate that Ghostbusters kind of like slapped a label of mediocrity on her and Paul Feig. Mm-hmm. That film is obviously subject to one level of bad faith criticism, and then also a sort of a slightly less bad faith level of criticism from people who just don't care for Ghostbusters movies, which I totally appreciate and understand. I think the 2016 Ghostbusters is probably the best Ghostbusters film, and I know that that's a crazy opinion, but I just think the original is a bit shit, so it's not a very high bar to clear. She also wrote this movie Snatched, which is the Goldie Hawn, Amy Schumer movie, which honestly could be a girl party episode. Definitely could be. But do we want to talk about Amy Schumer for 45 minutes? I'm not so sure. We'll have to make a decision on that when we run out of films with 2 female leads. So fair play to Katie Dippold on writing this film, which I do like quite a bit, despite all of our critiques. Will we do the credits game?
I think so. We're doing it in reverse, though.
So Shane's going to do the credits game and quiz me, and then I'm going to do box office game, quiz Shane. Do you have a credits game ready?
I do.
Okay. So the way this game works, Shane's going to read the cast list of a movie starring one of the girls in The Heat, and he's going to read it from bottom to top according to Letterboxd, starting with the last billed actor leading up to the first. And I'm going to have to...
Do you always go all the way to the end, or will we start like 20?
I start like where it seems reasonable to start.
Yeah.
And I'll have to guess the movie as fast as possible without hearing the actual famous people in it. Okay. All right.
Paul Moniz de Sa.
Okay.
Jude Wilson. Orlando Lucas. W. Earl Brown. Andrew Francis. Rob Morgan.
Okay, I know Rob Morgan, yeah.
Jess McLeod.
Okay.
McLeod.
Yeah.
Tom Gurry.
Yeah. Okay, keep going.
Will Pullen.
Okay.
Emma Nelson.
Okay.
Aisling Franciosi.
Oh, no way! Okay, so I've met her. She's Irish.
Oh, okay.
She is Irish.
How do you pronounce that name?
Aisling Franciosi.
Franciosi, yeah.
So Aisling Franciosi is in this movie.
Yes, she is.
What could this be? Interesting.
Okay, we have 6 names left. She's 7th billed, Miss
Aisling Franciosi. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That is so funny. I can't think of a film that she's been in with either of these actresses. That's funny. All right, give me one more.
Linda Emond.
No, keep going.
Richard Thomas.
Fuck me. That's Richard Thomas from The Waltons. Right. Interesting.
Playing Aisling Franciosi's father, I assume.
What?
Based on the character names.
Fuck? I didn't know this. What is this fucking film? So this is something from like the last 5 years.
Sure.
Because Aisling Franciosi is quite new.
Yeah.
This is something from the last couple of years. What have these 2 actresses been doing the last 2 years? Is it a McCarthy? Because don't tell me. Keep going.
John Bernthal.
Is this The Kitchen?
No.
John Bernthal. And so he's 4th billed.
Yeah.
And right. Okay, give me one more.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Wow, I would have thought this was The Kitchen. Vincent D'Onofrio's 3rd.
Yeah.
There's 2 names above Vincent D'Onofrio, and one of them is going to be Sandra Bullock or Melissa McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this is an incredible failure on my part. Okay.
Do you want to guess which one it is?
Is it Melissa McCarthy?
No.
Right. So it's a Sandra Bullock film. Is this the one where she's in like a fucking call center? Is this called like The Caller or something? No.
No, but it could. Okay, the background image on Letterboxd is her on a mobile phone.
On a mobile phone.
Does that?
No, I think the one I'm thinking of, she's in a call center. She would be on a mobile phone.
There's no mention of a call center in the description.
Yeah, okay, it's not that one then.
Second build.
She's second build.
No, she's first build.
She's first.
But second build is Viola Davis.
Well, this is like a made up movie. This is made up. What the fuck is this?
This is Nora Thingshite. It's The Unforgivable.
The Unforgivable. That is the call center film.
Okay.
What the fuck? Richard Thomas and Aisling Franciosi were in something together.
Yeah.
I wonder if that is the Richard Thomas. And D'Onofrio and Bernthal. That is a very fake movie. Very, very fake.
Yeah, John Boy Walton.
All right, that's what it is, Richard Thomas. Wow. That's incredible. I'm going to have to ask Aisling Franciosi about that if I ever chat to her.
You going to watch it?
Maybe. Now that I know her and him are in it. All right. Box office, folks.
Box.
So this movie came out in a weekend that I remember the box office of very vividly because I was a freak who was like...
Oh, sorry. One thing we forgot to do. What's our poster analysis for this?
Oh, I have the poster open here.
Yeah,
so,
and the billing credit.
So Sandra Bullock gets first billing and Melissa McCarthy gets second billing. It's pretty easy. There is a hierarchy there.
Sure.
They're not splitting a card or anything. I have the poster here. This is what I recall. There's a few posters.
Yeah,
this is the one I recall being the main one. And I remember people getting pissed off because Melissa McCarthy had been kind of like airbrushed to death on this one, where you literally just like,
oh wow,
she looks really insane.
That's insane.
And they were trying to make her face look thinner, and it was really weird. This one's a bit nicer. Bullock McCarthy, The Heat, nice red design. This one is a bit less nice. Says good cop, mad cop. I mean, from the director of Bridesmaids is an incredible pitch.
Not a bad tagline.
There was this teaser poster that said "The Heat is coming," which is just there's nothing going on there.
You can't. I actually wouldn't know. That's the film poster.
And then this is great. I love this is like real 80s style action movie poster, which is really cool. But I've never seen that before in my life. That was not used at the time of the release. It's probably a fucking steelbook with that cover or something. Anyway.
Sandra Bullock is first build, but I feel like this is kind of a McCarthy-driven vehicle.
I think so. Yeah, it is. Just by nature of her personality.
You'd probably replace Sandra Bullock in this with someone, but you couldn't really replace...
You could probably replace her with fucking Jason Bateman in this. Like,
sure.
Not to come back to Jason Bateman every time, but
no, we're going to talk about...
They had just done Identity Thief. Like,
yes.
We got to do one of our Bateman episodes soon.
Just to get him out of the system.
Yeah. So this film comes out June 28th, 2013. I was at the time recording a podcast every week called Buzz Hub's Box Office Buzz that I would record in my mother's car on my own. This one. When I would just go through the box office top 10. So
You're too familiar with this.
I know all the fucking box offices from this summer. So I'm going to quiz Shane. So number one is not The Heat. The Heat's opening number 2.
It's 2013.
Big hit. The Heat's making $40 million. So this is about a week after we finish our junior cert exams. Number 1 is a sequel to a modern beloved classic. And it is a inferior but okay sequel. It is for children. Children and adults alike.
Are we in Despicable Me territory here?
We are in Despicable Me territory. Well, this film is not, but
okay.
Despicable Me 2 comes out, I believe, the week after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was close.
Yeah. This film is like...
Beloved by children.
This film kind of doesn't exist, but like... It's
animated, obviously.
Everyone knows the name of it. Yeah, animated. Huh. It's the sequel to a beloved film. It is slightly less beloved.
Big toy film.
No, not really.
No,
not really. More of like a lunchbox film.
Lunchbox?
Like backpacks and lunchboxes, I would say.
Okay.
Like not really. Like,
and was there a gap
figures.
between this and the original?
Yeah, a huge gap.
Okay, so
sort
it's
of
like
12 years, I'd say.
Okay.
Sorry, it's actually a prequel, not a sequel.
An animated prequel.
Yep.
Damn.
Probably the only one I can think of, apart from Minions: Rise of Gru.
Monsters University.
Monsters University. Yeah. A film that mostly exists because it's like one of the only films that colleges will put on because it's university themed. Because they know that people will watch it because it's got university in the name.
Yeah.
It's very much okay. Number 2 is The Heat. Monsters University, by the way, sorry, $170 million in 2 weeks, which is just crazy.
That's
The Heat.
Surprised they never went back to it. Did they make a TV show?
They did a TV show.
TV show.
The Heat is number 2, and then number 3 is an interesting big star vehicle, very expensive movie, huge hit. The star in question has been covered on Boy Party already.
Okay.
Huge movie, which they haven't made a sequel to because there keeps being like random kind of directors hopping on and off. It's not very good.
Thinking of the episodes.
Very silly.
Is
very
it Jimmy Stewart?
Jimmy
No.
Stewart.
Okay.
This movie has frustrating geopolitics.
Frustrating. Is it war related?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
The Interview?
Nope.
No.
It's very serious. No jokes.
Very serious. No jokes.
Zero jokes in this boring ass movie. It's like full of VFX and bad VFX and one big huge star who's never made a movie like this since.
Huge as in like The Rock?
No, huge as in like incredibly famous. And we've done them on the podcast and it's not The Rock. This is like the only movie.
DiCaprio?
No.
Brad Pitt?
Brad Pitt, correct, yeah. The stupidest, most highest grossing film that Brad Pitt has ever
Fury
been in.
or something, no?
No, much bigger. Much more expensive.
Stupid.
Very expensive. Very bad geopolitics.
Not War Machine.
War is...
Oh, wait. What?
Not War Machine.
Oh, World War Z.
World War Z.
World War Z, of course.
World War Z.
Yeah.
Which
the Palestinians invade Israel.
The Palestinians are the zombies. The Israelis are the people. Keep them out with a big wall. Oh, no, it won't work. That movie.
Then end up in Scotland for some reason.
Because Damon Lindelof was hired to fix the ending.
Yeah.
Because the original ending was set in Moscow's Red Square. And they had to take it out. That film is a fucking geopolitical nightmare of both production and theme. Number 4.
Oh, God.
Number 4 is a new release, which was a flop, which is a pity because it fucking rules and it's going to be done on Boy Party someday.
2013 Boy Party.
Big action movie, 2 big stars, Boy Party eligible. I'm a big fan. I've seen it a few times. Good geopolitics in this one.
Franchise?
No, it was a flop. They never made anything again with these characters.
A one-off action movie.
Yeah, it is literally just an action movie. It's what it is.
Huh.
And it's great. I'm a big fan. I have it on Blu-ray. 2 big stars.
I know what it is. But
There's politics in it, and it's pretty good politics, considering.
What is that one?
Directed by a maybe not so good person.
Give me the director.
Roland Emmerich.
Oh. White House Down.
White House Down.
White House Down.
Opens opposite The Heat 2, 24 million, which is... Politics? It does have good politics. The villains in it are like weird fucking anti-military guys, but then the whole thing becomes like an anti-war thing. Anyway.
So this is Jamie Foxx and Channing Tatum.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Very
easily confused with Olympus Has Fallen.
Yeah. Number 5 is one of the most fucking pretentious, over-the-top, self-serious superhero movies of that era, but I think it's okay. It has a great score and a lot going for it. It's by a real director, but most people think it's garbage. And it launches a mini franchise that kind of coughs along for 2 or 3 more films before falling on its face.
This isn't like a Hellboy or something.
No. This is like the most famous. This is like the A-list character. This is a reboot of like an A-list superhero character.
Andrew Garfield Spider-Man?
No, but A-list.
Who got a reboot? When was the previous iteration?
2005? 2006? This is the most recent version of this character that has been in films in the last 3 years.
And not an X-Men.
Nope. This is an A-list superhero character.
You're saying
This is one of the 3 most famous superhero characters
Iron Man,
ever. More famous.
Batman,
more famous.
Superman.
Correct. Yes.
Oh, okay. Is this like a Henry Cavill Superman?
This is Henry Cavill. This is Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
That's the top 5. And the rest of the top 10 is This Is the End, Boy Party. Now You See Me, Boy Party. Fast and Furious 6.
Kind of Boy Party.
Not a great.
We're not going to do it.
Not a great film. Star Trek Into Darkness, definitely not a great film. and The Internship, which is a boy party, but is one of the 10 worst films I have ever seen. So a lot of boy parties that summer. The Heat, White House Down, This Is the End, Now You See Me, The Internship. We've also got The Purge, The Bling Ring, Epic, Before Midnight, Much Ado About Nothing, The Croods, Gatsby, Hangover 3, and After Earth. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Girl Party, everybody. Talking about The Heat.
Mm-hmm. Good film. Go watch it.
Good film. Go watch it. We may have sounded a bit humdrum about it, but no, it is good. Humming and hawing. Sorry, not humdrum. Anyway.
We have high standards for comedies.
We do. You can visit boypartypod.com. You can follow us Boypartypod on Instagram and X, Twitter. And we'll be back next week with another boy/girl party, depending on our mood. Maybe an everyone party. Maybe a non-binary party, if we can find actors famous enough.
We'll work on it.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.